Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to Manifesting Healing Monday. This is Dr. Kamani, licensed clinical psychologist, and we are here to have follow-up conversations, healing conversations for Black women healing from toxic work environments. I have a very special guest today, and we're going to talk from the perspective of for Black women, when we are in these toxic work environments, how is it that we heal and also exit plan, right? So many of us are trying to figure out, how do I even get out of this situation, right? So I'm going to turn it over to my guest for her to introduce herself. And we're going to speak from the perspective of, we're both therapists. So we're going to speak from the perspective of not only our own experiences in terms of healing and exit planning for ourselves, but also for our clients. So Gina, I'll turn it over to you for introduction.
Hello, I'm Gina Oniyiga, licensed clinical social worker in New York and Connecticut, as well as an Afro Flow yoga instructor where I met Dr. Kamani.
Yes, awesome, awesome. So Gina, let's just start right into it, right? So from either or, right? Your experiences in a toxic work environment and or the clients that you've worked with, what have been some of those experiences? What has it looked like in terms of them identifying if it was a toxic environment or even you?
So I've had a few. I'll just kind of sum up the experiences somewhat. I'll start off with my intro to social work.
Okay. Okay.
I was a single mom, enrolled in school full time,
Mhm.
had a part time internship outside of work, worked full time. So you can imagine stretch. So I show up to my
Wow.
internship for my interview because at that time it's limited to find a evening part time internship in order for you to be able to graduate. So it was a big deal. This was the only one. I made sure I dressed well, showed up. This woman let me know that, first of all, the outfit that you had on is doing way too much. And
Whoa.
I had on a little Forever 21 jacket and skirt. Just made sure I had a jacket, skirt on, like a nice little blazer. She let me know I
Uh-huh.
didn't look the part. And I don't know how it came about that I was a single mom, but she let me know that I was irresponsible for having a baby.
What?
Yes, and being a social worker. So you're considering where
Wow.
you're not going to make a lot of money, and now you have a baby, and here you are, you don't have your master's, and don't expect me to have pity for you because
Gina, this was during the interview?
this is my first intro to social work.
Oh my
I sucked
gosh.
it up because I needed this
Ugh,
internship. So she let me
ugh,
know that I was poor and out here having a baby and irresponsible.
wow.
Um, yeah, so I sucked it up, kept going, right?
Ooh.
Um,
So
and
you
I
had to mask, Gina. You had to mask like the outrage and the embarrassment and the humiliation because you needed this internship.
I needed the internship.
Oof.
And I
Yikes.
knew I knew I could not work
Mm,
and be a part of this program.
mm.
So I sucked it up. So
Ooh.
towards the end of just a lot of strong judgment. And I just thought, okay, maybe this is just her. But that continued to be a pattern through my
Mm,
experiences. Just
mm.
strong judgment about who I am, what I'm incapable of doing, where I fall
Wow.
short. And it's without any type of
Basis.
basis for the
Yeah, she doesn't even know you. Yeah, she doesn't even know you. And just thinking about Gina, for many of us, like in the mental health field, I know I've experienced this, right? You experienced it. But like the level of trauma sometimes that we encounter in work environments, and we're supposed to be providing services or therapy to other people. So it's like you're supposed to be doing this, but you're like, you're not feeling good inside because you're being attacked. Ugh,
and then I
that's
don't get it. So then I'm also the first one in my immediate family to go to college. So it's not like I'm prepared for it. And at that time, I don't think I had the language to identify this is racism.
yeah, yeah.
I didn't have the
Yeah.
language. So for me, I'm raised to think, okay, you're going to school, you're getting your master's. Life is
Hmm.
going to be so much better for you because
Yes.
you didn't have this deficit that us immigrants had at that point. I'm speaking in terms of my parents. So they're
Mhm.
thinking for me, of course, it's going to be 10 times better for you. You're going to Fordham University, you're getting your master's, things will go well. And
Mhm.
that being my first experience, it was jarring, but also it just didn't make sense at the time. And I
Yeah.
didn't have the language to call it what it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So fast forward, we're at the end of our internship, and my field instructor goes through a tragedy. She lost her husband and was there when
Oh.
it happened.
Mm.
So then this was my threshold, kind of, because I've been maintaining this whole time, and now she's grieving. So now it's worse. So now she's showing up to work and she's letting me know that she's like, okay, well, what do you say to, it's a test now. What do you say to a widow? And she's waiting.
Wow. Like an
And
inquisition.
and I don't want to be, I want to have compassion, but I
Yeah.
also don't understand why I have to go through this test. And also,
Right.
ma'am, I know you're in deep pain,
Yes.
but you can't come and punch me for it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's not going to help.
Mm.
So now I'm in a position where, Gina, you can't really sustain this any longer. This idea that you're at the end, um, how much more do you have to lose? So then I think I sum up the words as like, if this is what you're coming to work to do, you have to figure out another way. There's
Mm.
nothing that I can say to you that's going to take away this hurt that you feel from losing your husband. There's nothing that I can say in this moment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm clear on that, even as a new social worker. So
Yeah.
this idea that I'll never be great because I don't know how to fix your situation right now. And the only way to fix it is to bring your husband back, which is out of my control.
Right. Right. And think about it, Gina. It was so inappropriate on so many different levels, right? So number one, she wasn't modeling taking care of herself because maybe she's needed to take some time away from the job, right? Then boundaries, right? So she's projecting her issues on you to fix it, but it was kind of like a setup. So thinking about supervision, a supervisor is supposed to be the one that kind of nurtures our growth, right? And she was trying to just
Tear me
throw you
down
under the bus.
from the
Yeah.
that's been consistent with her demeanor from the get-go.
Mm. So Gina, what was that like for you as you would have to go in and interact with this person? What was that like for you, like emotionally, physically, mentally? What was that like?
I think I just went into like, I just want to get this done. Let me check off these
Mm.
boxes to say that I've done what I needed to do so I can get my degree so I could leave this place and never look back.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so you left and that was done with that. Now I want to read some comments in the chat. Racial battle fatigue is real. Narcissistic supervisors in the social work field are so prevalent. Cute. Yes, they are. Right.
Yes.
So,
So
just not knowing those boundaries, right?
not knowing
Um,
those boundaries, and they are, majority of them are in this work. There are administrators, and at that time, DEI wasn't a thing back then.
right.
So this is, I'm going to say 2008, 2009.
Mm,
Even though we've had racial tragedies, it wasn't a conversation then.
yeah.
So, I mean, I still think that's prevalent now as
Yeah.
well. It's
It
not,
is.
I don't
It
think it's,
is. It is. It comes out in different ways, right? And also, as we're talking about DEI and things like that, just for us to be clear that, your experiences were with, a particular person, right? And I've had experiences with people in the social work field. I'm a psychologist, but I've had experience with people in the social work field where they're not, well, one was white, but the majority of the people doing this were not white, right? But they were engaged in white supremacist behaviors. And so just recognizing ways that that can impact us. And I see another comment in the chat, even if you get your master's degree, you will then be overqualified. Most career fields are similar to what you have experienced as a person of color. The story you shared is heartbreaking, but welcome to adulthood. Yes. So it doesn't matter, and that's what I think was so hard too, Gina, is that, sometimes just like, you said your parents were like, oh, you got this, you're getting this degree. And right. So we're told like you just work hard and things will come to us, right? Things will be okay. And it's not that way. It's not
No.
that way. So, Gina, was that just the end of your internship that you left, or was that
That was the end
something?
of the internship. I made it through. I actually called to say, hey, can I do something else? I'll write a paper, but I'll let you know. And also it's the fear of even speaking, because now she calls and cries and says that Gina was so mean to her after
Oh
she's
no.
the white tears. I think I
Oh no.
knew.
The weaponizing of the white tears.
I think
Yes.
I knew at that time that I was going to be silenced in some kind of way, but I don't think I knew the severity of it until later on when I did start sharing certain things and being on the receiving end of, like, that because Karen said something that to me that I did not appreciate, and I let her know that she will
Mm,
never talk to me like that again.
how dare you? How
How
dare
dare
you? Right. So Gina, as you work with other Black women also, I'm curious in terms of what you've heard from other Black women too about their experiences in toxic work environments.
I would say that there's like an underestimation of what your capabilities are. And
Mm,
then when they're surprised or wowed by something that you've done, the
mm,
condescending tone of, wow, like, didn't expect that from you. Or I just, and some people are blatant with their racism as well. Like, oh, I figured your parents are immigrants. Didn't know that
mm,
you could be so educated, or just things of that nature. Or, I feel like the hardest part in this work is dealing with somebody else's insecurity.
yes. Yes, absolutely. Because you can tell that they're insecure by the way they're treating you, right? And the way that they can't just appreciate what you're contributing. It always has to be like they have to one up you or put you in your place, or there's all this drama. And that's like a telltale sign you are insecure, right?
And
And
that there's
so,
nothing I can do to and it's also not my responsibility. I think I
right.
went through the motions of not being confident when I say things. So if I have an idea, if you ask me what my thoughts are, and I say it it's a statement. So I'm sure
Hmm.
on what I'm saying, I'm delivering it with confidence. And I know that
Yeah.
is a big deal for some people. So then
Hmm.
I would earlier on in my career, I would practice ending sounding like I'm asking a question, even though I'm sure just so people aren't offended, because
Wow.
there's also a pressure to share the same ideas as people. It could be an awful idea. Everybody at the table is like, this is great. And sometimes I'm quiet because I don't feel that way. And
Mm,
I don't want problems. So,
yes,
but
yes,
it
yes.
helped. And I think this also has to do with just living in your purpose. I would sit there and I would try, and say, well, say for an example, in foster care, this was a big thing that happened one time. So you have a group of families visiting in one area.
Hmm.
Naturally, what's going to happen, it's kind of like being at the park. Naturally, the kids are going to play with the kids. Adults are going to connect with other adults. And there's
Hmm.
not that focus on family. They might check in on from time to time, but there's too many people in one
Hmm.
area sharing a space that are also going through a similar type of trauma.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
they're going to bond.
Yes, yes.
The problem was that they felt like families should just focus on families and not bond with each other. So children shouldn't be playing with other children. And I shared that maybe we need to have structured events so we can kind of facilitate that, so we can kind of cultivate that environment. Oh my God.
Mhm.
Who told me to share my opinion? Who they don't,
What happened, Tina? What they do?
oh my God, it was like the worst. Like, who do I think I am?
Ooh.
What kind of they eventually did it. and it worked really
That's what I'm saying.
well.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
the idea that you're sharing an opinion that I didn't come up with, and that
Mm,
may have been based on some type of intelligence that I don't think you should have as a Black woman.
mm, mm. Right? Which is a double message, right, Gina? Because you couldn't have got that job if you weren't intelligent. But then the fact that you are expressing your intelligence, then that becomes threatening.
It's
And so it's like,
threatening,
no.
but you can't be, this idea that you can't be confident in
Wow.
how you show up, how you share your opinions. And I did buy into it at a certain point. Like maybe I do need to say, oh, maybe we can change the visiting program so that, and not sound as confident, just to not piss people off.
Ooh. So dimming your light for the benefit of other people so they feel more comfortable. So when did that change? What caused you to shift that?
It changed when I recognized that it was racism, that no matter what, I'm going to show up, and some folk are going to look at me like you're not smart enough, you're not good enough. And I think
Wow.
when I left, I spent a huge chunk of my early years in one setting, and then when I left, and I think it was my first day, this social worker came up to me and said, hey, we're working with this doula program. I just want you to introduce yourself to this woman via email, but I want you to send the email to me first so that I can make the necessary corrections.
What?
I'll send it back to you so that you can send it to
No,
the doula.
Gina,
So what are you telling
Gina.
me on day one? You telling me that I can't write,
Wow.
that I'm illiterate, that not
Wow.
that, but that I can't write,
Yes.
that the basic skill of introducing myself to someone via email is something that you need to monitor.
Wow.
And
I'm
I
not
said
even
no.
qualified and smart enough to do that.
And I said, why? And then she lied. She said, well, our manager said that that's the way I need to work with you. And I was so filled with rage that
Mm.
I walked into the head, I guess the deputy director's office, and I said, well, if you felt this way about me, then why offer me the position? And she
I
said,
love it.
I never said anything like that. I never said anything like that to her. I don't know why she would say that to you. She's a new supervisor. Just kind of like, understand that she's new. And then I went back to her and I said, I think that's when I learned the power of no.
Setting boundaries.
Setting strong boundaries, and also like ready to risk it all in a way. Because if this is
Yeah.
how you feel like about me, then I don't need to be here.
Yes, this is not the place for me, right? So any place where you're expecting me to shrink or to act like that I'm buying into the supremacist way of thinking, it's not the place for me. I'm
Or
out.
you're gonna micromanage me because you've decided that I'm not skilled enough in even introducing myself.
Ooh, isn't that's profound.
Then we
That
had a
is profound.
meeting. We had a meeting. I was like, this is how we're gonna work. And at that time I was also trying to be diplomatic with things where it's okay, well, what's your working style? Not that I care. I don't care what your working style is. But let's sit here and entertain it. What's your
Yes,
working style? I'm so curious. I'm not. This is how I work. And
yes.
what we're not gonna do is micromanage me. And especially, I don't even think she wasn't licensed. She
What?
hadn't done half the stuff I've done to come for me in that
Wow.
way. So after
Wow.
that meeting, of course, I'm aggressive. Now I'm very aggressive. And when I
Oh,
walk into the room, it's kind of like, she's mean. And I was okay with it.
right, right. But you know what's so interesting is that here is a woman who's less qualified than you. Nobody has a right to do that anyway, right? She's less qualified than you, and she's trying to put you in your place,
Yes.
right? And just think about how many times that's happened to us as Black women. I can absolutely say that happens to me, right? So the person really is not even at your level, right? But trying to check you because they are intimidated by you. And so, I think what's interesting is that you showed like kind of your evolution, right? So you went from intern, like, oh, I gotta just take it, to you have this job. You're like, no, I'm not, no. Let me tell you how I work. right? And let me flip it back on you. Okay, so how was it that you work, right? So you empowered yourself by setting those boundaries. So wondering, like, with that job, did there did you continue to have issues at that job that you're talking about?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The questioning my skills was the hardest thing for me, but this particular site would always talk about racism. So they had, the narrative was great. And I think one of your talks about this too, but it's that idea of just being performative. Like we're
Yeah.
addressing racism, but it's done in a performative way, because
Yes. Just gestures.
once we leave this table, you will come to me and let me know that I don't know how to write. So you need
Mm,
to read everything that I ever write and make
mm.
sure that it's up to par, because you automatically assume that there are going to be tons of grammatical errors.
Right, right. And I'm just trying to help you out, right? So I talked about this. This is the Stop Playing Diversity Part 2 panel that you're referring to, right? So it's kind of like this, that nice nasty that I talked about before. So it's like, no, I'm just trying to help you, but it's very condescending and very disrespectful, right? Like you're not smart enough to write an email, so I have to check it for you. And so just that, what that toll has on us in terms of constantly have to being aware of what's happening, and then have to check people, and then have to
Check
make sure your work
yourself,
is
like check your own emotions, because everything is
yes,
going to be like, what? You know?
right,
But I'm
yes,
like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, yeah, I won't be doing that. I'll CC you on the email. But I'm
yeah,
curious. I'm not, but I hated to have to go through the diplomacy of having that conversation. And
yes.
then it's still ending up in me being aggressive. I wish I was just aggressive in the very beginning.
Right, right, right. So you see the real thing, right? Since you calling it out so much, I'm gonna show you what angry is, right? Even though you have every right to be angry. And you know what's so interesting, Gina, is that it's like we're fighting against, there's so many stereotypes against us. So when we're in the workplace and these things happen to us, we want to, right? We want to say or we want to do, but then we know that then that's fulfilling a stereotype. So then we like, okay, now I gotta suck it up, but then that takes a toll on us, right? That
Absolutely.
masking, that swallowing, that just, kind of just letting things go. But then that makes us feel bad about ourselves, right? And so it's important that we recognize that when it gets to a point that it's too much, like I just can't take this anymore, then like recognize the need to pivot and leave, right? So, I'm very clear. And when I talk to women that, well, my clients, and even talking to myself about it when I eventually left, was there gets a point that we recognize for ourselves, I can't take this anymore, right? I can't take it anymore. It's impacting me physically, mentally, spiritually. I just can't take this anymore. And you start doing things like questioning, why did I even go into this field? Or why am I even doing this work? Or anything like that. That's a time that it's important for us to really pay attention to that and pivot and start coming up with our exit plan. So, Gina, what about for you? What was that like for you when you were like, I just can't? I just can't. How did you recognize that for yourself?
I think when there's a lack of support, and what I noticed too was there were pockets of us dealing with the same thing,
Mm,
and you noticed who was dealing with the same thing because they were kind of isolated.
uh,
Like, we are the folks that show up to do our job. We don't want to go to a happy hour. We're not we're not hanging out after work. We're eating our lunch probably by ourselves. And then
yes,
I noticed that having those side conversations, we're all struggling with the same thing too, but not knowing who you can seek support from.
mm, yes. Something like you always gotta look your back. Who can you trust? So you're again being traumatized in your work environment.
And then
Yeah,
sometimes you do open up to somebody, but they have a different way of dealing with things. Like, oh, she called you dumb. That's okay. You're not. No, no. I don't want to be called dumb on my
right,
first day at work. That's a
right.
problem for me. And our thresholds and our bandwidth to tolerate that kind of stuff is completely different. So
Yes,
not finding support in that area, but then finding support from folks who do get it and
yes,
understand when you hit that point where you're absolutely done.
yes. I'm done. So how did you know when you got to that point? And I'll share with the audience how I got to my point. How did you
I
get to
felt
that
like I
point?
got to that point where everything that I did, um, superseded their expectations of me. So if I did something that Karen couldn't have done,
Mm-hmm.
they want to know how.
Mm.
So how you went to the meeting, you covered this meeting. How did you manage to kind of turn this whole case around? That just blows my mind.
I just can't conceive of it. You're that smart that you would be able to do that?
And then I would say, like, this is what I did. And the process of me justifying my work.
Mm.
I was kind of, this is
That's too
not,
much.
I knew that this wasn't the environment that I could thrive in. This wasn't the environment that I was seen.
Yeah.
This wasn't the type of environment that really respected and understood my skills.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't respect it, didn't value it, and you were not going to grow, right? Because they keep trying to like confine you, or even when you're showing your talents, they just can't believe it.
Right.
So you knew that deep down that was not the place for you. And I know for me, I had so many signs, Gina. It was like glaring signs, for years, right? And I just chose to ignore that for
For
different
how
reasons.
long?
Girl,
For
I would say at least 3 years. At least 3 years. At least 3 years. It got so bad that two of my really good friends, took me out, and I was in this mode, Gina, and I think a lot of Black women get into this mode, right? Where it's like, I'm gonna show you. You're not gonna force me. You're not gonna do this. You're not gonna da da da. I'm gonna fight you, right?
yeah.
So that fighting energy, and I was spending so much time trying to fight and really show my worth. And my friend said, "Girl, stop doing that. I need for you to stop." Right? So they said, "I need you to stop because you are trying to prove your worth to people who will never value you and they're not even worthy of you." Number one, right? Number two, you need to go someplace where you are affirmed and valued and that you're growing. And number three, all that energy that you're putting over there, you could be doing something else and being on a higher level, right? And so I just appreciate them. And that's the value of good friends, right? Good sisterhood, right? So they were there for me throughout the process. And I remember one of my friends, like you talked about, sometimes we're in these toxic work environments, we isolate ourselves, right? So I remember one of my good friends said something, and it's so true. I related to that. And she was like, if I don't like you, I can't eat with you.
No,
Right?
I can't. I don't
So,
know what you did this weekend. I don't care about your kids. I don't care about your
right,
dog. I just want to get
right.
my work done.
Just leave me alone. Just step back. I'll say hey, and that's it, right?
Use
So I want to
respect.
read it.
Good morning. Hey, I
That's it.
can we go
That's
over
enough.
this reports and that's it.
Right, right,
But
right,
that's
right.
hard. That's hard in this field too, because if you
Yeah.
don't show an interest in my life, then you're cold and you're
Cold,
mean
and you're
and you're
hostile.
aggressive.
Oh, and Gina, and you're not a team player.
You're not a team player.
No, no, no. So I just want to read some comments in the chat. Having to be better. Wait, let me see. Oh, this is pretty long. Okay. Having to be better at all you do, no matter what career you choose, is not fair. I've served in the military, police department, educator, and a case manager. When you complete tasks too fast, they will call you in to help others who are behind. Know your worth and who you are. I have heard the story too many times, and my daughter experienced something similar, and I had to help her understand. Let no one stop you from reaching your goals. Learning to play the game at work will always be tough. Yes, that is so true. This happened to me. I was not able to send an email until my boss and a consultant reviewed and edited my email before I sent it to the CEO. How degrading. And they edited it to make themselves shine. And
Of
I found
course.
out my boss didn't have a PR, HR background, and I have a degree in experience in HR. How demeaning is that, right? So just think about these work environments that are demeaning, they're demoralizing, right? And then they cause us to shrink in a way, but it causes an internal thing because we're like, I don't want to shrink. Like, I know what I'm bringing to the table, but you have people who are constantly trying to like control you and dominate you, right? And then I see performative anti-racism is such an insidious form of gaslighting. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, Gina, I'm wondering as we think about, we talked about recognizing number one, this is not the place for me, right? And that sometimes it may take a while for that to happen, but coming to that realization.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do we heal from these environments? How do we heal?
I think it starts with first acknowledging that you don't deserve certain things. I don't deserve that. I didn't
Mhm.
deserve that from day one at that job. I didn't deserve my internship to be such a judgmental setting. I just didn't deserve those things. And then switching that to what do I deserve? I deserve to work in an environment where I could thrive, where my
Yeah.
skills are valued, where
Yes.
there's room for me to make a statement with confidence and it not be perceived as a threat or me insulting or being condescending towards another because they didn't think the way that I do.
Hmm.
Just think about all the things that you deserve. And I think also getting to that place, you also need support. You do, because
Yeah.
it's such a hard thing to go through alone,
Yeah.
where you kind of do sit back and wonder, like, what do I need to change? Is there something about me
Hmm.
that do I need to, you might consider like maybe I do need to come across as a little less confident, or do I come across as arrogant? Or is there a way that I need to tweak? But having support, especially support that understands you and
Hmm.
understands uh, the stress that can come from being from such a situation that is going to kind of pour into you when you need pouring into.
Hmm. So getting support from other people, but also, Gina, in terms of, recognizing when you're at that point that you're starting to internalize the questioning of yourself. Like that's a sign like this is not a healthy
Oh,
environment for me. It's harming me, right? And so I know for me after that journey, right, as I say to people, it's a journey, right? So I don't want anybody to think I woke up one day and I quit, right? It's not that
no.
way, right? It's a very painful journey too, Gina. I know from myself, I was at my job for a number of years, right? And I love working with kids. What I did not like and what I did not want to did not tolerate is the disrespect from adults, right?
Mhm.
And so putting you in your place and all these different things. But it got to a point, where I recognized that the job was really like harming me seriously, right? So physically, I'm a surprised so I can these nosebleeds. I'd never had nosebleeds before. My hair started falling out. Just a lot of different things. And I was just deeply, deeply unhappy. I dreaded waking up in the morning. I dreaded going to the job. I dreaded hearing some people's voices. Like, oh
Yes.
God, like I just like and trying to control, like they would say something. I want to say something like, shut, right? I just want to say something out of my character, right? So I felt like I was becoming a different person. And it was like taking me away
Yes.
from
When it
why
takes away the essence of who you are.
exactly. And I was like, who am I? Who am I becoming? Right. And the thing too, Gina, is that I started to even question, did I want to be a psychologist? Like,
Of
why do,
course.
right? And I think about, oh my God, I went through all this training and all these different things. But I'm thinking, if this is what this means, I don't want this, right?
Right.
But when I came to realize it was that place and those people, it was not the field. I love what I do, right? But it was that place in those people. And the thing that was just the pinnacle of it, right, was that, and I want to tell people, and I want the audience to know that if you are in situations like this and you feel like it's starting to take a toll on you physically, mentally, spiritually, do what you need to do to take care of yourself, right? For me, I took a leave of absence. So I was gone for like a year. And I needed that. I needed to be away from that environment because I knew that I could not heal in that environment that was harming me, right?
Mhm.
They were the source of my pain and my trauma. So I couldn't heal there. So I needed to move away. But what was so profound, Gina, was I was taking a shower one day and I swear to you, I heard the voice of God say to me, if you go back there, that's a death sentence.
Mm.
And that did it for me, right? Now I had seen already other Black women at the job in my age category who literally had died,
Oh,
right? Literally had died. And it was like, it wasn't that many Black people, Black employees, right? So I'm thinking, okay, this is odd. But when I saw that and when I heard that voice, I paid attention to that voice, and that was it for me, right? So, can you talk a little bit, Gina, in terms of for yourself or for clients you work with, how to exit plan? Like, what does that look like? And then I'll share from my perspective also.
I think you have to make peace with letting go. Sometimes letting go is hard for folks, and it's not even just a job. It's just change, the fear of change, the
Mm,
fear of not knowing what the next steps look like.
yeah.
Um, I think making peace with being it's time. So when you
Yeah.
shared your example, I had one job where I would have nightmares. I would have
Ooh,
nightmares about the people at the job showing up in my dream as like demons and
ooh,
something protecting me. And those dreams were, I don't know if you have those dreams that kind of shake you to your core. And
yeah.
those that just, it wasn't something that you ate or it wasn't something that you watched. Like this is a real message trying
Yes.
to get you in a place where there's nothing else you're paying attention to. And I
Yes.
think that for me was kind of a wake up call that shook me hard enough to like, if you're disrupting my sleep,
Like you're invading my special place, right? My sleep, my peace.
then
You're
this is
invading my
this
peace.
isn't for me.
Yes, 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 yes.
Making peace with next steps. So what I do is I find what brings me joy in the work to
Mm,
maintain me. So I love what I do. I don't
mhm.
like who I do it for sometimes,
Yes,
but
yes.
I love what I do. So in your example, like I love working with kids, and I had a boss at the time that was very insecure as well.
Mm.
And I feel like that's the hardest thing to deal with because I can't address that for you.
And I don't have empathy for you. I'm sorry. I don't have empathy for that.
Sorry, they would have broke me too if I didn't, if I didn't like stand up half the time, but they would have broke
Yes,
me. Like figure out
yes.
it doesn't break you, but don't break me. Don't try to
Oh,
break me
and I'm
either.
not gonna
I've
let
been
you,
through
I'm
too
not gonna
much.
let you. Yes,
I've been through too much. Like now that
yes,
you're here, you can't, if they didn't do it, you definitely can't do it at this point in my life.
yes, yes, yes.
So she would do things. I'd have conversations, people walk away and be different. Or she see me work with certain kids that, especially, don't get me started on my Black babies. Sorry, but I love all of them, but my Black babies are gonna show up differently in
Yes.
this setting. And she wanted to know how. So I'd have a session. The little boy did well today. She wants to know what I said, how I said it. Why does his mother like me? Is it because I'm from the neighborhood and I really didn't tell anybody?
What?
Oh yes. So she or a parent, she's like, oh well, that parent's usually very difficult. I don't understand why she wasn't difficult with you. Do you
Wow.
do you know her from somewhere else other than here?
Oh,
Like
so question your competence. It just can't be
would
that you're
not
competent.
let it go. There was always another reason as to why my work was clearly clearly great.
Yes, yes. And they loved it. They resonated with it, and they connected
And
to
you
you
saw
in
it
terms of
and you
relationship.
couldn't deny it. But then the
Wow.
consequences about why she couldn't do what I could do. And then expect me to answer. And I'd be like, I'm like, well, I don't want to hurt your
Explain
feelings
to
either. Now
me.
I gotta be diplomatic again.
Right. Explain to me why I'm not better than you. What's
And
going
I'm
on
not better.
here?
I sincerely don't walk around here thinking I'm better than anybody.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not walking around here thinking I'm inferior to anybody here either. Ma'am,
That part. That part.
I'm
That
me.
part. That part. I'm
She
me,
felt
and I'm coming in
comfortable
with all of
talking to
me.
me.
Yes. Yes. I'm not having that. I'm not having that.
And my thing too is I know it's time for me to go there isn't a part of me that can be diplomatic anymore.
Mm.
So when I'm like straight attitude and I'm fed up, that's a whole side of me that I just don't like. And then once that is turned on, it's not gonna be turned off. So then
Yes.
in this setting, she got me to that point,
Mm.
and I fully accepted where I was, and it would just be us going, toe to toe. And I'm fully okay with being aggressive, because she'd say, "Well, what evidence-based practice did you use when
Oh,
speaking
no.
to that parent?" I'm like, "I don't know. Which evidence-based practice do you recommend?" And she didn't know any. I knew she didn't know any.
You called her on it.
So we'll sit here and we'll both have attitudes. And I know when I get to that
Wow.
point, it's time to go.
It's time
It's
to
time to
go. And
make peace with it.
it's
And
not
I
even
think
worth it.
it's not worth it, but the hardest part for me is leaving the clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm feeling like that regard, like maybe I should cope a little more or find different ways to deal, because I don't want to let them down. We've
Mm.
built a whole routine, we have
Mm.
our morning breakfast together, and then making peace with the part of me that has to choose me,
Yeah.
so that I am in a space where I can be effective in
Yeah. Yeah.
the services that I provide.
And thinking about, self-preservation is always, we need to think about self-preservation, right? And also, Gina, you're a mother, right? So we have to think about our lives outside of our jobs. Our jobs do not define who we are. And so when it comes to the point where we become somebody different than we normally are, or it's affecting us in a way that we're not focusing on taking care of ourselves or our family, yeah, it's time to go, right? And
Right.
the part about the them coming into your dreams. Girl, I did a reel on this about, it was like a nightmare I had. It was like a real life nightmare that I felt like I was there and I had to go back to that job. And in my dream, I kept saying, "How can this be? How
Mhm.
can this be? How do I have to go back there?" So that no, that shows you the intensity, right? And also, you talked about, Gina. Like when they start coming into your dreams, that is another red flag that that's not the place for you, right? And so for myself, I was very intentional with my home was my sanctuary space, right? So for my home, I would not allow certain people's names in my house, and I still don't. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? I don't even say their names. Like, you don't
Yeah.
belong here, right? Like, demon, get out, right? You don't belong here. So
Wait,
that
so
was
does that mean like you don't come in and talk? So
I don't say their names. You know what
okay.
I'm saying? Like literally, and particularly before COVID, right? So I would be on the phone talking to one of my friends about something that this person had done, right?
Mhm.
And I would say, okay, I need to hang up because I don't want to bring these people into my house, right? I don't want to talk, I don't want to speak their names in my house. So there's certain people's names that
Mhm.
don't belong in my house
Yes.
still, right? Even now that I'm gone, because they were, evildoers, right?
Yeah.
And they invoked a lot of trauma on not only me, but other people, but
Yeah.
particularly other Black people. You know what I'm saying? So for you, you talked about different ways of exit plan in terms of being more aware of yourself, getting support. And I also want
Finding
to say,
joy in the work that you do, because there
yes,
is joy. So when that little kid lights up when he sees you, that's a moment to um not ignore and let everything
yeah,
else overpower it. So I would find joy in my work, but then I'd
mhm,
also be adamant about dedicating time out my day to either network with friends who knew or let them know that I'm looking to apply for jobs that excite me,
mhm.
set up interview, and I'm a pain to interview too. So when I show up to an interview, I'm interviewing the employer as
Oh,
well.
I love it.
Because
I love it.
now I need to make sure that, and you have to be strategic about your questions too. But
Yeah,
what's important to me, like I want to know if my supervisor is going to be insecure. I want to
yes,
know what your like what the supervision like for you. What are your expectations? So my
yes,
questions are pretty lengthy. If we get to second interview, like it's a whole interview on my part as well, because I need to assess whether next step is going to be safe for me as well.
yeah, yeah. I think that's really valuable to share with people, that we have to be mindful of them. We're interviewing them too, right? Because I remember what you said in a previous interview, Gina. You said that we are a gift, right? So you are a gift to that organization. So they need to honor you. And so being okay with interviewing them. And, in terms of networking, it's very important in terms of other opportunities. I know for myself, I had to get to a place in thinking about what is it that I really want to do? Like, what is really aligned with my purpose? What makes me excited? And really pursuing that, not only with people I talk to in terms of professional areas, but also I got coaching because
Mhm.
I saw, what? I don't think what I want to do is through a job. I think I need to do my own thing. And
Mhm.
so I got a business coach. So shout out Dr. TK, right? So I have a business coach who helped me in terms of really nurturing things that I want to do. So for all of you, listening, for exit planning, number one, I want you to know healing is possible. So you've seen it with Gina and I talking about healing is possible. We've had some horrendous job experiences. Healing is possible. Do what you need to do to heal, but you have to recognize you're being harmed,
Yes.
right? And when you're being harmed, what do you need to do to engage in self preservation and self care or soul care? Excuse me. The
Yes.
other thing is with exit planning, start talking in your networks about, hey, this is what's going on with me. And also, you don't want to be holding this stuff in because that stuff is toxic to hold it all in, too. But be mindful of who you share that information with, okay?
Right.
I've had experiences of sharing things with people that I thought I was cool with, and they ended up backstabbing me, right? So be
Mhm.
mindful of who you share information with. I went back into therapy, right? Which was very helpful. And I started like plotting my way out, right? So
Yes.
it took a long time because I started making strategic moves. So whatever you need to do in your field. So for me, I went back into seeing clients for therapy because I knew I could easily do that, right? I could
Mhm.
easily get clients, especially during the pandemic. So as you're thinking about pivoting and coming up with your exit plan, what is some of the things that you can do and start doing those things on your own to start building up and showing your way out, okay?
Dedicating the time, being persistent and consistent with it as well, because there's
Yes.
nothing like accepting a job offer and being able to come back and let that person know that you're done here. And being able to visualize that for yourself, that you are so focused on that goal while you're still in the situation.
Yes, 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 yes. And I see some more comments in the chat. Oh my gosh, my last toxic employer is always up in my dream. Oh, and she left in 2019. Oh no.
No.
Ooh, I'm like, can you do like a sage thing in your house or something? Because that's horrible.
Yes.
Toxic past coworkers show up too. Oh my God. Oh, sometimes it's witchcraft, it's demonic. People are into stuff. Oh, girl, I
People are
hope that whatever you
demonic.
need to do, get
Let
those
me
people
go
out your brain.
through some of these clients, these comments on this side. Yes, definitely being mindful of who you share information with. I've learned, I mentioned like certain people have a certain bandwidth or tolerance for certain things. And when you're in
Mhm.
a different space, sometimes either sharing the information is going to go back to whoever you may
Yep,
have issues with,
yep,
or just, it's the office gossip is a whole other thing.
yes, it is.
Just
And
minimizing
politics
that.
and you bring opportunists. You know what I'm saying? They'll throw you
Yes.
under the bus for them to do what they need to do.
Exactly, for them to be in good standing
Yep,
or be under somebody's good graces that will offer them future, areas to advance in their career based off the information they can get from you.
yeah. But
And
think about it, Gina. When that happens, number one, it's the golden handcuffs, right? So you're attached in terms of the financial. But
yes,
look at this. If they would do that to you, right? If they happen to do that, they're gonna do it to eventually that person too, right? So that's showing you that person.
maybe, but I think people show up differently. So with
Hmm.
my boss, she couldn't come to me and gossip about a lot of people.
Mm.
I'm, ma'am, I don't get paid for that.
Yes,
And also, it's a turn off. So what you gonna say about me when you leave here?
literally.
When you
As
leave
soon as
this
I get up,
room, you're gonna gossip about me too. Take me out of the
right?
equation and find somebody else to do it with. Uh,
Yes,
but yeah, there are people that will look at it as an opportunity because some people do bond over gossiping. So what
yes,
if
they
I was
do.
the type that entertained that kind of stuff? It would
Mm-hmm.
have probably worked out better for me.
Mm. Yeah, it probably would have. And it's so funny, Gina, because I was just talking about this the other day. I used to honestly say I had a problem because if I don't like you, I cannot pretend I don't like you, right? I could be cordial with you, polite, but I can't pretend like I like you. And
No.
so for the longest time, I was like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I can't play the game, right? I cannot be all up in your face and blah, blah. And you know what? And finally, I was like, that's not a problem. That's a gift, right? That's a gift. My spirit is not letting me be okay and kind of lie to my spirit, right?
And
And
do things
so,
that are not things that I value, or indulging in certain activities that are not true to the essence of who I am.
yes,
Ma'am,
yes,
no. Gossip with your mother.
exactly,
We
exactly.
have a comment here, Dr. Kamani. What is the difference with being passionate about a topic or being conceived as the angry Black woman?
Mm. You
I'll
want to
let you
answer that first? Okay, okay. So I think that it doesn't matter how you present it, people are always going to see you filtered through their own stereotypes,
right.
right? So it doesn't matter if you, like Gina said, like if you say it in a certain way, right, in terms of the tone, because we know about the tone policing, especially
Right.
for Black women. It doesn't matter how you say it. People are going to perceive it in a certain way. What my hope is that that does not silence you, right? So that you recognize, okay, I'm going to say this. I may be getting some pushback, but I need to say this, right? So that's my 2 cents. What do you think, Gina?
I think for sure you can't control people's perception of you. And I think when you feel safe, if people are, I guess, human enough to take time to get to know you, they'll understand who you are. But
Mm-hmm.
in most of these spaces, we show up as Black women, and automatically you're aggressive and you're
Yep.
angry, and it
Yep.
doesn't matter. And I think
Yep.
most of us have to just be comfortable in ourselves and knowing that we're not angry Black women, and not let those perceptions that are not based in anything
Mm-hmm.
but what fluff, like they're not based on anything that is worth us considering, to silence ourselves.
Yeah. And another way, too, in addition to that, is we may have every right to be angry in these situations, right? So if people are disrespecting us, trying to put us in our place, micromanaging us, we have every right to be angry, right? But the caution is that when we do express that anger, it is going to be seen in a certain way.
Mhm.
And we are seen as the aggressors, or we're making people cry, we make people feel uncomfortable, all these different things. But we can't own that. We can't hold into that. We can't internalize all that negativity. So I'm wondering, Gina, in terms of like Afroflow yoga, right? How has Afroflow yoga played a role in terms of your own healing as well?
I would say it gave me a space to release all of it. It gave me a space to release the parts that, because I'm not going to lie, there were times that they got to me where they
Mhm.
did have me questioning who I am, if I'm good enough, what I need to change so that I could be validated by them, so that I can grow. Um, or even, and then the parts of me that was tired and didn't have the language to identify what was happening. And
Mhm.
also, when I did realize what was happening, now you're pissed as hell because it's racism. But
Yes.
no one is calling it what it is. So
Yeah.
Afroflow yoga gave me a space to release it all. And also, and then the good parts of what's happening. Like, my clients don't feel that way. My,
Right. Your clients keep coming back. Your clients look forward to seeing you. Yeah.
and my goodbyes from certain places were with my clients. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
want to have goodbyes with staff because
Yes.
they're mainly the reason why I'm leaving. So let me terminate with my clients in a way where we all kind of leave with joy.
Yes.
But yeah, it was a release because it's not easy to carry. It was not
Yeah.
easy to carry. It's not easy to sit with. It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's not, even though we're talking about our next steps and looking for that next job, sometimes that doesn't come quick enough, and we have
Yeah.
responsibilities.
Yeah.
Um, You mentioned this earlier too. Like, we have families. I'm a mom.
Yeah.
Actually, when I was thinking about this talk, I asked my kids, when do you think mommy was the most stressed, or what job do you think made mommy show up different?
Mm,
And they both had different examples. But even the thought of how I'm showing up in the rest of my life as a mom, as a wife, as a
mm,
daughter, carrying
yeah.
all this stress and not really do I want to talk about the stress at work every single day? Do I want to talk about the toxicity every single day? Do I want it to rob every single experience of my life? No, but
Right.
having Afroflow yoga as a space to release and ground myself to get back and do it again until I found my next steps was, I think, pivotal.
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm in training for Afroflow Yoga. And so I just want to tell everyone, please check out Afroflow Yoga. I'll put that information description check section. It's awesome. And I know for me too, Gina, that like my two sons, when I was on leave from my job, they were asking me, are you going back to that job? And I said, I don't know. I'm trying to figure things out. And they begged me, do not go back there. Do not go back there, mom. You are so unhappy there. Do not go back,
Yeah.
right? And so for us to recognize too as Black women, that this toxicity, this toxic job, it can spill over to other parts of our lives, right? So to our friends, our families, our kids, our romantic relationships. So it's not worth it. It's just not worth it, right? So what do we need to do to heal, pivot, and exit plan? I just want everybody to remember that and reflect on that, right? So in closing, Gina, do you have any last words that you want to share with people? Or if you're doing Afroflow yoga teaching, how people would access that?
Okay. My last words: we deserve spaces where we could thrive, and we have we should be assessing these spaces to make sure it's definitely, and sometimes it's not all about money, but making sure that we're in a space where we can thrive, and knowing that we deserve that. One.
Yes, yes.
Afroflow yoga. Right now, we still have classes virtually with Jeff and Leslie in Massachusetts. But also go onto the website, afroflowyoga.com, just to sign up for the newsletter so that you're in the know of when new classes are popping up.
Yes, and Afroflow yoga is just such a powerful integration of African dance, African music, and yoga, right? And it really helps to center you. It really fosters the sense of community. So I invite all of you to check out Afroflow Yoga in terms of a cultural form of healing as well. And I just want to tell everyone, and Gina, Fred, thank you so much for being my guest today. And to the audience, thank you for tuning in today. And remember what we talked about, know your worth. And any place that does not value your worth, they don't deserve you because you are a gift. Okay. So remember that as you are in a toxic work environment, start healing, start the healing journey, right? It's not an automatic thing, right? Start the healing journey and also work on your exit plan. So, again, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to my channel, YouTube channel, Lifting Us to Calm Consulting Wellness Services. And I will see you next time. So thank you again. Gina, if you can stay on and have a good rest of your evening, everyone.